So I'm Rob Blair. I wanted to introduce everyone today to my friend here, Tom Lyman. He's multi-leveled, I guess, as far as who he is, and we're going to talk about a couple things in regards to the construction side of mortgage and real estate, but we're also going to talk about having an impact on the communities that we serve, and Tom is having a massive impact on our community, and it's growing. It's growing very, very fast, and it's exciting. And we'll get into the details of that. But again, welcome and thank you for being here, Tom.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your construction company and who you are, and we'll kind of get into the details of some other things here in a minute. But who are you? Introduce yourself to the people that listen.
All right. Well, my name's Tom Lyman, and born in Washington, and I love Washington. It rains a lot, but love it. Uh, Grew up in Bellevue, went to a church school there, graduating class of 2 people, so pretty small, but great upbringing there. My dad was always in construction, and I followed that path. In 1995, I started full-time. Prior to that, I was working summers and weekends as a teenager. So I think because of the small school setting, I made construction kind of my sport because we didn't have a big enough school to have sports. And so framing was a challenge and a sport. And so when I started in 1995, my dad and brother had employees doing nothing but framing. And we did a lot of framing for a lot of years. And something about that, it's very rewarding to walk up to a property that just has flat concrete and within days or weeks to see a structure. And I became very challenged by that. And of course, I wanted to earn the respect of all the employees. And so I studied blueprints and I poured myself into construction. And I'm 45 years old now and I'm still doing construction. It's kind of interesting how that works sometimes. But for the most part, I enjoy it. There's certain days that are challenging and think, what else could I or should I do with my life? But that has been my life. A lot of construction since 1995, full-time in Washington. I've actually only been on my own with CONSIDERATE contracting for 3 years. So my brother and I decided to part ways, and it's mainly because the scope of work. I just got burned out on apartments, new construction. There's something about human contact where I like to meet a lot of people every week, every year. So in the remodel and renovation world, I meet hundreds of people, sometimes a week. And I enjoy that. With the new construction, I was on one project for 12 to 15 months, 100, 200 unit job. And that's just where you're at. And you're just there every day over and over. So, yeah, for 3 years, been in the remodel renovation world and based out of Auburn, Washington. Very proud of what we do. CONSIDERATE is a very bold business company name, CONSIDERATE Contracting. And we pride ourselves on that, listening to the client. What are the expectations for schedule, for start time, and where to park, and everything, the details that a lot of clients will say, I've had a bad experience with the contractor. I think a lot of times it's because the client and contractor had different expectations. Budget's always a big question, but there's a lot more to the relationship, especially when they're occupied spaces. We do a lot of apartment renovations where we work well with the leasing manager so she can work well with the tenants, and we respect the tenants. We don't just barge in there and we're here, we work with them and we talk. And the whole thing comes down to treat others how you want to be treated. It really is, sometimes in life, you can get too focused on, the schedule or the budget. Got to be careful and realize the most important thing is treating others how you want to be treated, communication through conflict, and just relationships.
So who are your main customers? Are they, is it like the entities? Is it like hedge fund type stuff? Are they hiring you to do the stuff that they own it and remodel and update? Or is it someone that maybe it's a group of guys and it's a smaller investment group that's doing it? Or is it on par where they just have a, rental or maybe some units? Where are you getting your business from?
So my mind's going through, of course, 28 years of construction all at once. So narrowing it down to the current years, the last few years,
Right.
let me say overall, through the 28 years, 98% of the work for my family, both businesses, has boiled down to a referral, and done little to no marketing. What that means is when I'm working for a property management company renovating 100 units, well, one of the people involved there also owns a home. And so I'm doing a little $20,000 deck on this house as I'm doing a $2 million full strip and reclad on this apartment, or vice versa. I go and do this kitchen for a client and they go, hey, by the way, I work for so-and-so and we've got 70 decks falling off the building. We need those rebuilt. And we already need new roofing in a year, new gutters, and we want to do turns. And we got 10 units vacant. Can you do the turns? And so we've just been diversified,
Okay.
and followed the relationships. But it comes down to who those relationships are with. And when they first call, my questions are, okay, what location? When would you like to start? Have you thought about your budget? Have you picked out the selections of what you're looking to do? So we've seen it slow down, in the last few months. Yes. Some of the colleagues, other business owners I talked to on the new construction have shared that some jobs have hit the brakes completely. The blueprints are done. It's been underway for a year. Permits are ready. It's a $20 million, new construction, and they hit the brakes. This was back in November, December.
Yes.
A couple of specific jobs locally. And same thing on the renovation side. Somebody wants to repaint their buildings, but they can wait a year.
Right.
Just can pause, hit the pause button. And that's what we see a little bit of. So during that, I see what we've had to do is hustle a little bit more. I don't, there's probably a better word for that. But we did go to a networking event recently. There were 1,600 project managers and maintenance managers and everyone there. And it was a great time. I met 500 people that day. So whether the leads from that become multifamily renovation or the people's personal homes, kitchens, bathrooms, decks, tear off your roof, go vertical, or insurance work, we do it all. So we really boil down to the conversations with the client about expectations to make sure we're a good fit. We're going to have a relationship together. And that's key to me.
Yeah. How far out are they really projecting business? Or do you ever peek behind the curtain there? I mean, are they looking years and years out, or is this pretty much we're going to take it as we come, and because we've only managed so much?
I have not been in that recently. In my past company, there was a lot more looking a year or two ahead. We're smaller now. And so we are looking just months ahead with current clients that are real jobs that are really funded. And I'll go back to a saying, one day at a time.
Right.
Good to see you out there and everything. But I kind of live in the current flow. And I think the blessing is that I've got 10 full-time employees, not 100. And when I talk to companies that have 100 or 200 employees, I mean, you really got to look out there further.
Right.
So that's just where we are. To answer that question as best I can. One thing came to mind. I'm working for a client right now. He used to work for me for years as a painting contractor. And now I'm working for him and I'm doing demo on a project, but very interesting. They have purchased, him and the partners he's with, 600 hotel units. And they're flipping them into apartments.
Okay.
Go in and add a little kitchen in the corner of the room. I mean,
Right.
12 feet wide, 25 feet deep. It's walk in, it's a bed and a bathroom right now.
Right.
Adding a little kitchen. They have 600 units underway right now. And that's their niche. And
Wow.
what they're doing. They'll only rent for $1,200 a month probably, but it's a 250 square foot apartment. So it's a hotel to apartment conversion. No, just
Wow.
interesting niche. And a reminder of relationships.
Right.
For me, he was always a stand-up contractor.
Yeah.
And now things got a little slow last week and he and I stay in touch. He's like, you want to come? Sure, I'll work for you. And it's not about you're a painter, you're a framer, you're a general
Right.
contractor. It's
Right. So
what's going on this month? I've
Right.
got families that I'm responsible for, not just my own, but my employees. I've had some of those employees 21 years and I'm loyal to them. You will find the work and God will provide the work. But you got to get out there and remember that the relationships and treating people right.
Yeah.
Brings it home to me when he was my painter and now I'm his demo contractor.
Kind of switch gears a little bit. You and I met originally through a friend, Gerald Smiley, invited me to your place of business for your passion project, a nonprofit that you started called Joy Hour. And so we've been talking, we've known each other for, I don't know, half a year now, maybe a little bit longer. but I feel like, in life, we meet certain people that are on a frequency that is maybe similar to our own, that we kind of go to, beat of our own drum type thing. And so it's interesting how we connected fairly quickly and became friends because, you were pretty vulnerable in explaining why you started this. And it built, honestly, a trust level with me to where I'm using you on a business side of it because everything you just said is 100% accurate. I mean, consider contracting. I mean, as far as the communication, everything that you've done for my project, it's exactly spot on. You didn't, there's no exaggeration. You probably even be a little modest in my opinion, because you went, it was amazing because I've worked with contractors in the past. I've done remodels and, it's fine, but I would say yours is absolutely head and shoulders above the others I've worked with. So hopefully you take that as a compliment. In this industry that I'm in, we're going to have ups and downs. Real estate, mortgage, and construction. You're always going to have ups and downs. Good years, bad years. It's whatever the market's willing to bear. Um, so I've made a conscious decision to really focus on relationships and compound those relationships that I can have the impact that I want to have on the communities because that we live and serve. Because that's a passion that I've been working on and something that really fulfills me, personally and professionally, because these relationships are longstanding. What you're doing, and growing, um, is impressive. So I'll let you explain because you obviously, this is your passion. You explain it very well, but what Joy Hour is.
Just to show you a card, we started with these cards. We still use them. Joy Hour. So started a year ago in Auburn, Washington, as just a thought of an alternative to happy hour. At the time, I was 3 months sober, and wanted to make sure there was things in my life that kept me sober and accountable because I dealt with this for addiction for a few years, on and off, on and off. I have a wonderful wife of 20 years. I have 3 precious children, and had the addiction kept up, I would have lost that. There's nothing in my life that matters more than my wife and 3 kids. And I was choosing something over that. And so I thank my wife for the day she stood there and said, I still love you. It's been 19 years, almost 20. I will always love you, but I can't do this. And so I ran to rehab in Auburn. It's the best decision I've ever made. And I'm thankful that there are options in our community for people to get help and find hope and healing. So 3 months into sobriety, laying in bed one night, I get the little song in my head, probably from Sunday school growing up. I got that joy, joy, joy down in my heart. And my wife's kind of looking at me like, are you okay? She's singing. And she's the music director and always been to music and the singer. I'm not. But anyhow, we joked. But within 5 minutes, a few things came to mind. Number one, what did I enjoy about happy hour? What would I miss from parties? And it was the people. And that resonated with me. And then, yes, you could say God or my thoughts and voice, said, take your pool table from your garage and your ping pong table, take it to your shop, Tom. So I did. And I told a few people about it, thinking 5, 10 people would show up, maybe 20, and 34 people showed up. And we had a great time. Basketball hoop out in the parking lot and a little bit of hot dogs or something simple, and made some Italian sodas. And 3 hours, 4 hours into it, everybody's like, okay. And I'd almost asked them to leave. So it's Wednesday at 4:00 until 7, but I think that first night we probably went till 8 or 9. Then the next week did it again. There's 71 people. The third week, there's 107 people. And I'll never forget because that was my 107th sober day. And it was 106 people, but a good friend of mine showed up late, and anyhow, it worked out to be a unique thing. I'm a numbers guy being a contractor, so it's pretty special. Third week after a thought of this, and there's 107 people there on my 107 sober days. So confirmations have come left and right. The fourth week, there's 158 people there. All summer long, it averaged 140 to 160 people. Bouncy house, ping pong, air hockey, chess, checkers, water fights, you name it. Food. Food has been incredible.
Yeah.
Italian sodas, music. So yeah, over 4,000 people or more in a year have attended, and it's just an open house for 3 hours in the middle of the week called Joy Hour, focused on addiction prevention, addiction recovery, and
My family has been impacted by addiction. Obviously, you have, and your family has. But um, I'm a big believer in it, not just saying it, but taking action.
right.
You know, it, you're not gonna nothing's gonna happen unless you take action. So you talk, you have this great ideas, but you literally took action, and it's manifested itself into this event every week. Um, and now it's growing. How many locations?
There's three,
Okay.
soon to be four.
So when we first met, it was like, I don't know, or it was before the 1 year anniversary of it. And, I was just impressed with how happy everyone was there. And to me, where I think you're having the biggest impact is you're drawing in people that really need help. There was one evening there that, a younger gentleman, tried to hurt himself. And I remember you were kind of like, I'm an addict. I understand addiction. I understand that level of, and you're realizing that you're having this impact, but you may not be equipped, right? And so you realize, okay, I need more help, and I need to grow this to where, okay, we have someone to help here. We have someone to help here, put together.
If I could just speak on that too.
Yeah,
Um, the young man had come to our event a few times, and then he just stopped coming like a lot of people do. And, we do our best to follow up, but, there's a lot of people, and we're working on follow up and just checking in. How you doing? How you doing? Some time went by, and this person actually called my nephew and said, "Hey, you still doing joy hours?" He's like, "Yeah, every Wednesday." He's okay. I'll see you. I need it. He came, and yeah, he was bandaged up because he'd made a choice and, used to, yeah, he'd hurt himself. And, not being able to truly speak on that, saying I've been there, is a moment of like, how do you help? How do you minister to somebody? But I looked over, and a friend in the community that I've met through this event, actually Gerald Smiley, was sitting there talking to this young man. And I don't know what all was said, but I looked across the room and I thought, that's what we need in this world. We're all going through something, and we've all been through something. And if we don't use what we've been through to help the next generation, to help somebody else, like, what was it for? I'm tired of the guilt and shame that I carried for years because I was so embarrassed. And then at first it was like, I don't want to tell anybody I went to rehab. That's, if you drink responsibly, you're okay. But if you go to rehab, you have an issue. And I'm tired of that. And so, yeah, I've found a way, and other people in the community have caught on that in the midst of shooting basketball, in the midst of shooting pool or playing ping pong, there are conversations that happen and people feel safe. They can communicate, because as long as there's breath, there's hope. But if there's not breath, it's too late. And then we're going, how could we have helped? We could have done something in that person's life. We could have provided something, but we didn't know. You're only going to know if you talk, if you share true stories and be vulnerable and say, yeah, my name is Tom Lyman. I was an addict for years. I went to rehab to fix it. And I still every week, almost every day, do things in my recovery, different meetings, different groups. Uh, it's real talk. It's real life. Like, you know what? No shame and guilt. Just find hope and find people. But when I look across the room and I see different leaders in the community that I haven't asked to do that. I've never asked anybody not to be on their phones, but nobody's on their phones. I've never asked anybody to minister to each other and be open and talk. It just happens because we need it. And yeah, there's one in Alpena, Michigan. There's one in Hoquiam, Washington. The first one last week in Hoquiam, Washington, there was 100 people there. The mayor was there, so we have his support, anything we need, because we know, like, look what's happened through isolation. Look what it's done to families. Look what it's done to people. I mean, they're isolated in their mind, and the anxiety and the fear and the depression comes in. Yeah, but it's proven that isolation will only make addictions and mental health issues get worse. And connection gives the chance for hope. You got to put in the work. You got to say, I want this, and put yourself into non-negotiable things in life where you say, I'm going to do this meeting. I'm going to do this atmosphere. I'm going to talk to this mentor. I'm going to be accountable to this person. But there is so much hope. If you would have told me a year and a half ago, my life could be where it is right now, I would not have believed it, but it is amazing. I wouldn't trade anything I've been through at all. And yes, I was an addict on substances, on alcohol, you name it, and almost ruined everything. But I take that and I use that as a ability to take away the strength. I have no problem being around alcohol. I go to golf tournaments, no problem, and no problem, no judgment either. Somebody's, hey, that's up to them. But if you were an addict like I was, drinking and driving, risking your 3 kids not having a dad because of a bad choice, like there's hope, there's help.
Mhm.
So it's just good to see others in the community once they're there pick up on that.
You know, it takes a lot of strength to be vulnerable, and that's what's attractive. Um, again, I chose to work with you professionally based on who I know you were as a person.
Mhm.
You were vulnerable with me. You were asking questions. You're asking counsel. I mean, we've all been through stuff. I mean, Gerald, you know, he's a dear friend. Um, he's been through some stuff. You know, we've talked on here before, and you know, that's how we had that connection. You know, you if you're to your point, if you're in isolation, that is a compounding issue. It's only a hole that gets deeper and deeper every day. And having that connection and having some type of community that it's okay to have that problem. It's okay because there's no judgment.
Right.
It's in fact, you know, Gerald and I talked about this. Like, you know, at some point you use that as a gift. And in my opinion, I mean, if you weren't an addict, if you hadn't gone through that stuff, you wouldn't have this impact on the community. I mean, it really is impacting the community. You know, I know you're talking with Stacy in regards to the food bank and trying to help families there. I mean, they serve 20,000 people a month, right? Food isn't their only issue for a lot of those families, right? There's isolation, there's mental health, there's addiction, there's other things there that you are going to help those people. You know, so you know, back to you know having the impact. Removing mortgage is the number one impact lender in the world. And so it sounds like a weird thing to say. It's like impact lender. What is the impact? Impact lender is where we take half of our profits and pour it back to the communities that we serve. We're building schools in areas where basically it's decimated. You know, a lot of these kids, a lot of our scholars are they're moving 2.5 times a year. They're homeless or living in a car, sleeping on uncle's couch one day, you know, mom's car the next. They don't have food, right? We've given them security in regards to stabilizing their education. Once we can stabilize education, we're going to stabilize food and resources, and then hopefully we're going to stabilize their housing, right? And all of that has a mixture of mental health, isolation, addiction, everything, right? It's not just poverty. There's other things there. So having you as an ally, as a friend, as an asset that, you know, I can introduce you to these connections that I'm making or vice versa. That's what I'm talking about earlier with regards to the frequency that we're on.
Yeah.
There's certain people that are at this frequency that we realize we're running the exact same race. There's no reason why we can't run together, right? I mean, just go lane by lane by lane by lane and have an impact and get more people to follow and get in that race. Um, and it usually takes people like you being vulnerable. It takes me being vulnerable. It's not, I mean, I do mortgage and real estate and you do construction, right? But we're carving out a portion of our day to try to have an impact to help these families and people in our own backyard. It's going to, it's not always the easiest thing to do, right? Because we're busy. I know you have a lot of things that are going on. I do as well, but we're taking time to have this conversation, recording this conversation and putting it out there. So if people need help, they know there's people like you that want to help.
So a quote that was given to me, and I looked it up again this morning to make sure it was verbatim, but I slept and I dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy. And so I've found that to be true. 5 years ago or so was the worst year of my life. It was also the financial peak of my life. And that I find interesting. I've used a slogan a lot is money does buy happiness. Absolutely. I used to do a lot of it. Boats, cars, you name it. Um, but joy is free. So money buys happiness, joy is free. What am I looking for the rest of my life going forward? So made some mistakes. Yes, I'm very transparent and vulnerable for the purpose that even if I'm vulnerable to 20 people and it only helps one, that's worth it to me. I've had a young man I'm working with that drives 2.5 hours each way on Monday just to come to our recovery meeting that we do at 3 p.m. on Mondays. That's one way he drives that far because it's that valuable to where he is in his journey right now. It's a journey of life. And there are certain parts of my journey that I could be embarrassed about, but I choose not to. I choose to go ahead and talk to them because it opens doors to others that are going through things. But yeah, service is joy. And it does help. Iron sharpeneth iron is another thing that we talk about. And two people talking does help. So yeah, if you want more information, theconsiderategroup.org. You can go to our website there. You can follow us on social media. We are looking to take it to the next level in those areas. We're doing our best. We've put in over 4,000 volunteer hours, quite a bit of investment from people locally. And we're looking for sponsors. We're looking for donations. We're looking to grow, not just in Auburn. We will need a bigger building very soon, but other locations. So other people want to start them in other communities. We are helping them with finances, with resources, with anything we can.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. And you're doing the right thing. It's definitely needed. It's pretty obvious when you're having hundreds of people show up at your shop, and it's growing. Third location. Yeah, it's amazing.
I know we're wrapping up, but I got to just touch on it. The biggest addiction Joy Hour has helped with is the social media, cell phone addiction, video game addiction. And so if that's impacting your family at all in the regards to connection, love, I know with my family, we were living together in the same house, but we were disconnected because dad, a lot of times it starts with the dads, would come home and I'd sit down on my phone and next thing you know, the kid's like, well, if you don't want to play catch in the backyard, I'll go play my Xbox. So it starts with me. I'm working on it. I'm far from perfect, but there's a whole thing there. You'll learn more about it if you want to, about how to replace this at least an hour a day. Just set it down and go on a walk. And how do we do that? How do we truly set that thing aside? It's great for what it is. I mean, I use social media when I need to, of course, but yeah, just seeing for 3 hours a week, nobody on their phone. But then when I go anywhere else, restaurants, churches, anywhere out there, I see people on their phones all the time.
Yep.
And it's an amazing thing how it's damaging us, and not just kids, but adults. So we got to be careful with these things. Don't just think of Joy Hour as addiction from alcohol and drugs. Think of it as anything that is disturbing the balance of your life is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's always about balancing life, health, relationships, all of that. So I wanted to make sure I didn't forget to touch on what all Joy Hour covers.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Rob.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.